If you enjoy history and love going on adventures, then you've come to the right place. Hit that subscribe button. Come on in and let's go on an adventure together with the Hegmans.
The most infamous cold case in American history is perhaps the most bone-chilling of them all. 437 years ago, John White sailed up to the shores of North Carolina, a place called Roanoke. He had been here 3 years before. You can only imagine what he felt as he stepped onto the hard, unmoving land after months at sea. He lifted his head, excited to see his beloved daughter and 3-year-old granddaughter, but his eyes met with an eerie sight he was not expecting. His gaze fell upon the trees, gently rocking in the wind, carrying the earthy smells of rotten wood mixed with wildflowers. He heard the unmistakable sound of the leaves rustling among the chattering of squirrels. But the one sight and sound he desired the most never came. He was sure his family must have seen him arrive. He heaved back and bellowed out with all his might, a yell calling out for his daughter. The only answer he received was the non-stop chirping of insects. He bellowed again, a gust of wind, his only reply. A million horrors rushed through his mind in a single moment. My God, where is my family, he thought. He silently drew his rapier from its sheath and began to push his way through the overgrowth of trees and bushes that seemed hell-bent on keeping him out. A small group of men following him, ever deeper into the web of tangled tree branches and thorny bushes that tore at their flesh. Suddenly John stopped. He had found it. The colony he helped build 3 years ago. But where were the colonists? Where was his family? The place was utterly abandoned. Adding to his nightmare, all the fortifications, the homes that he helped build, were all gone. Nothing was left standing except the mighty trees that John knew had witnessed some horrible fate befall the colonists and his beloved daughter and granddaughter. A single yell from behind him pulled his focus. He moved urgently to where it had originated from. What he found sent shivers down his spine. One of his men had found a single word carved into a tree. The word was Croatoan, and thus began the mystery of the Lost Colony of Roanoke, as the colonists were never found or heard from again. The Hegman team have set their sights on trying to solve this, America's oldest mystery. And I have some exciting news for you with regards to this mission. That's right, I am talking to you. The Hegman team needs your help. They want you to join them, and with the awesome technology today, we can make that happen. I hope you are ready to become an active participant in this attempt to solve the mystery of Roanoke. Okay, in order for this to work, we need to match your brainwaves with our binary integrated software package. Oh, don't worry, it won't hurt a bit. In fact, it's pretty simple. In a moment, I am going to display a clock face. I will need you to focus on any number you wish. I will then give you specific instructions on how to move around the clock face based on the number you chose. I will attempt to locate and capture the frequency of your brainwaves as you move around the clock. When I locate where you are on the clock face, we will have achieved total integration and can then insert you into the Hegman team, where you will be able to help them work through the Roanoke mystery. So, let's begin, shall we? I need you to clear your thoughts and think of any number between 1 and 12. It's your choice. In a moment, I will need you to spell your number, letter by letter, moving clockwise around the clock. For example, if you chose the number 2, you will begin to spell out the 2 starting from the 12 position, moving clockwise. 1 would be T, 2 would be W, and 3 would be O, or if you chose the number 4. You will begin at 12, moving clockwise. 1 would be F, 2 would be O, 3 would be U, and 4 would be R. When you have finished spelling your number, you will be on a new random number. Okay, let's begin. Please start at 12 and spell the number you chose. Well done. Now please look at the number you landed on. This is your new number. In a moment, I am going to ask you to spell this new number as you did before. Except, instead of starting at 12, you will start with the number you just landed on. For example, if you landed on 2, then 3 will be T, 4 will be W, and 5 will be O. Got it? Okay then, let's begin. Please spell out your new number now. I almost have you. Let's try one more time. Please look at the number you landed on. This is your new number. Please spell it out, as you did the last time, starting with your new number. If you have to go fully around the clock, that's all right. Are you ready? Great. Let's begin. Okay, I know you are not on the number 2, so I'm going to take it away. I can tell you are not on the 4, or the 8, and I am sure you are not on 12. Okay, one last time. You are a hard one to capture. Please spell out the number you landed on, one number at a time, moving clockwise as before. And, skipping the empty spaces, please begin now. I believe I have you locked on. I am going to remove all the other numbers and reveal the number you landed on. If I am correct, then we have been successful in pairing your brainwaves with our binary integrated software package, and we will be able to insert you as the final member of Team Hegman. That'll do it. I have you fully integrated into our system. I am going to upload you into Team Hegman's meeting that is just about to start. But first, please allow me a brief moment to give you a quick rundown on your new teammates. The first member of your team is Rob Coyle. He is currently 46 years of age. Rob is currently employed as a heavy machinist. He is also a professional driver and journeyman plumber. Mr. Coyle is an avid hunter and fisherman. No buck nor fish is safe when Rob comes around. Rob is the classic outdoorsman who loves to travel and experience all the wonders around him. He is well read, but the most important quality you need to remember about Mr. Coyle is he is fiercely devoted and loyal to his friends and family. Your next team member is Matt Hegman. He is currently 47 years old. Matthew has several degrees from the Ohio State University, but his favorite is military history. He is currently a professional driver, but after his graduation from college, he worked as a teacher for several years before moving on. Matt, like his brother Rob, enjoys hunting and fishing. His favorite sport of all time is football. Matt is highly educated and will find any reason in the world to travel anywhere. But over everything else, Matt loves being a family man. Next we have Angie Hegman. Angie is currently 44 years of age and is currently employed as a food service exec. She is a master problem solver and a true multitasking queen. Angie enjoys mysteries and trying to solve them. She adores traveling and would be more than happy to simply travel the world the rest of her life. Her favorite thing in life, though, is being a mum and a wife, although she says she gets exhausted trying to raise her husband, Matt. Last but certainly not least, we have Darby Hegman. Darby is currently too young to be stressed. She has zeroed in on geology and engineering as her chosen profession and is currently studying these two fields and enjoys a current GPA of 4.0. Darby loves to travel, but truly enjoys working with outreach programs to help feed the homeless and those less fortunate souls. Darby also loves to relax with a good mystery book, trying to solve it before she reaches the final chapter. And that concludes the quick bio on your team. I have briefed them as well on you, and they are excited for you to join them. So without further delay, let's patch you into the meeting that is about to start.
Everyone, thanks for coming out to meet with me today. I appreciate it. Darby said that this is a mystery that she really wants to solve. So let's see if we can get that done for her. And hey, we got somebody new with us today. Hey, you. Hope you're doing good, and I really want to thank you for coming out and helping us today solve this mystery. Hey, there's my brother Rob. How's the sailing?
It's great here in the Bahamas. Went spearfishing, got some breakfast. You ought to have been here.
Would have loved that, but let me tell you, this fishing trip in Montana has been calling my name for a long time. I just had to come here first. Next time, though, I'll get down there. My beautiful wife, Angie. Hey, how's the Outer Banks treating you?
Hey, my meeting ended early, so I'm out here enjoying the sun and surf here at the, out in the Outer Banks. Be a great place to come for a vacation.
Well, that sounds like a plan. I say we do it. And there's my amazing daughter, Darby. How goes it in Japan, Darby?
Hi Dad, hi everyone. I'm here at Mount Fuji and I'm studying rock formations on it. It's quite fascinating. I'd like to thank you all here for being here today. And I'd like to be able to try my hand at it because it was just mystery.
Happy to do it. And as I said earlier, I think you already know, we've got a new member in our team today. Everyone say hi to you. Hi, you.
Hey, you.
Thanks for helping us out
Thanks
today.
for helping us out.
Okay, well we should probably get to work now. And I believe in order to do that we would probably need to know the background information. Obvious. Step 1. I know that my family would agree on that, but what about you? I'm sorry, I know that you needed this. All you have to do is say yes or no. It's your choice. Okay, it appears that we are all in agreement. Beavis, will you tell us the background story for this?
Of course, Darby, right away. In the mid to late 1500s, England had been left behind in the European race to colonize the so-called New World. Spain was busy pillaging the Americas, and Portugal had long been trading in West Africa. Elizabeth I of England was more than happy to fund privateers to rob the Spanish treasure fleets, rather than try colonizing. However, in March 1584, Queen Elizabeth I finally agreed to attempt a settlement of colonists in the area known today as North Carolina. This expedition was called the Amadas Barlow Expedition after its two leaders. They explored the area, making contact with natives who lived on the island. The meetings between the natives and the English seemed to be on good terms, and the local chief, Wingina, even entertained them with a great feast. After their return to England, Barlow described the area as beautiful, with peaceful natives. It certainly appeared to be an area worthy of a permanent English colony. The following year, adventurer Richard Grenville was given command of a small fleet to sail to Roanoke, carrying a group of colonists. The Queen did not give any financial backing, but she did provide the expedition with the 160-ton ship Tiger. Grenville left Plymouth on April 9, 1585, with his fleet of 5 ships, including the Tiger. While attempting to navigate the shallows of the Carolina banks, the Tiger ran aground, seawater poured into the ship's stores, ruining much of the foods meant for the colonists. Grenville, in an attempt to overcome this, took one of the smaller ships and began sailing back to England to procure more supplies. On his way back, he captured the 300-ton Santa Maria de San Vicente full of sugar, ivory and other spices that would pay off all the expedition's costs. Once he reached home, he purchased new supplies and immediately headed back towards North Carolina. Meanwhile, in Roanoke, the food supplies of the settlers grew desperately short. Relations with the natives also soured. The natives were unwilling to hand over any of their own meager food supplies, and relations became hostile. Around mid-June, the English began to believe that the Indians planned to attack the colony, so they struck first in a raid which killed Chief Wingina. Just a few days later, Sir Francis Drake, fresh from one of his privateering raids against the Spanish in the Caribbean, happened to be sailing by the area of Roanoke and was flagged down by the English colonists. He allowed them to board his vessels and took them back to England. Grenville missed them by less than 2 weeks. Not wanting to give up on the area, he left 15 men and 2 years of supplies for them to hold out until new colonists arrived. They were never seen or heard of again. During this time, a new expedition to Roanoke was in the process of being finalized, with John White having been chosen to serve as the first governor of the colony. It was decided that a new approach was needed. Instead of sending soldiers, they would send civilians. 117 men, women, and children. White intended to return to Roanoke Island, locate the 15 men left behind by Grenville, and then begin to build the colony. When the expedition set sail on April 26, 1587, White's daughter, Eleanor Dare, was pregnant. The expedition arrived at Roanoke Island on July 16th, however. The 15 men were gone. All that was left behind was a single human skeleton. On August 18th, Eleanor Dare gave birth to her daughter, Virginia, the first English child born in the New World. As tension increased with the Indians and supplies dwindled, the colonists voted to have White return to England for help and supplies. On August 27th, John White and the fleet set sail for England. He intended to return to Roanoke Island as soon as possible. Little did he know that when he turned to wave at his family as his ship began sailing away, it would be the last time he saw them, or any of the colonists, ever again. When White had reached England, he was informed that the Anglo-Spanish War had broken out and that all English ships had been ordered to help fight the Spanish. White spent 3 years embroiled in naval battles when, in August of 1589, the Spanish Armada, battered and defeated, finally retreated to Spain. The war was over, and White made quick work in loading ships with supplies to head to Roanoke. John White arrived back at the colony on his granddaughter's 3rd birthday, August 18, 1590. He found the area completely and utterly abandoned. Nothing was left standing. The only clue he could find was one word carved into a tree where the colony had been. It read, Croatoan. White believed this meant that they had moved down to an area called Hatteras. They immediately set sail to find them when they ran right into the start of a hurricane. They lost both anchors and 7 sailors fell overboard and drowned. It was decided they could no longer safely make the attempt to Hatteras and would have to sail back to England. John White never saw his family again, and America's oldest mystery was born. I hope that information helps you, Darby.
Gee, that's very interesting. There's a lot I probably didn't know. I have heard a lot of theories about what happened at the Roanoke colony. Do you guys happen to know any of them?
Well, there are the Dare Stones. I'm not really sure too much about them. Jeeves, will you help us out with that?
Oh yes, the Dare Stones. That is certainly an interesting story, Angie. I will be happy to go over it for you. One moment, please. In November of 1937, Louis Hammond of California showed up at Atlanta's Emory University with a 21-pound stone he said he'd found in the summer while he and his wife were collecting hickory nuts in the woods along the Chowan River near Edenton, North Carolina. What made this rock so interesting was that it was covered in faded etchings, and Mr. Hammond wanted to know if it could be deciphered. Several professors, including geology professor James Lester, physics professor J. Harris Perks, history professor Haywood Jefferson Pierce Jr., were successful in transcribing the full message. The front of the stone read, Ananias Dare and Virginia, went hence unto heaven 1591. At the bottom it reads, Any Englishman, please give this to John White, and signed EWD, which surely stood for Eleanor White Dare. The flip side of the stone told the story that soon after White had left, the colonists were forced to relocate inland, where misery and war befell them for 2 years. More than half them died from disease, and Native Americans killed all but 7 survivors. The victims, Ananias and Virginia among them, were buried 4 miles east of the river, the gravesite marked with a rock bearing every name. The professors were ecstatic over this find and set out to locate the gravesite as well as any other stones that may exist. They offered $500 to anyone who could find another Dare-style stone. And now, the story gets really interesting. A man named Bill Eberhardt came forward shortly after the $500 reward was advertised with 4 stones. He said he found them on a hill near Greenville, South Carolina. One of the 4 stones was dated 1591 and were carved with 17 names, Ananias and Virginia included. He then began to bring in more stones he had located, along with a few other folks that brought in 6 more stones. By 1940, the collection of stones had grown to 48, 42 of them coming from Bill. These stones seemed to paint a pretty comprehensive portrait of the colonists' fate. The survivors had assimilated into the Cherokee tribe, and Eleanor even married a chief and given birth to a daughter, Agnes, before dying in 1599. Certainly an intriguing story, but is it true? Well, yes and no. Everything I just told you about the stones being turned in actually happened. The real question is whether the stones are in fact real. To answer that, I can only give you the facts and let you decide. The first Dare stone found by Mr. Louis Hammond in 1937 was heavily tested by the professors. They found it to be made of quartz, which was native to the region where Hammond claimed to have found it. The Old English-style text on the stone, known as Elizabethan, was thoroughly studied, and they found precedents for the spelling and usage of every word with exception of 5. They also attempted to recreate the inscription using modern stone cutting techniques, but were unable to do so. A few of the stone cutters used for this experiment said that the colonists may have been able to inscribe the stones using 16th century tools, but were unable to say for certain. To make matters more difficult, Mr. Hammond had used a lead pencil to scrape out the inscriptions, thereby destroying any chance for an accurate carbon dating. Furthermore, the professors took Mr. Hammond out to locate the spot where he found the stone, and he was unable to do so. All in all, by my calculations, it appears there is a 70% chance this stone is a forgery. And now, let us move on to the stones that Mr. Bill Eberhart claimed to have found. It is interesting to note that Mr. Eberhart was a master stone mason from Georgia, which means that he was a master stone carver. Are red flags flying up for you yet? It is also curious to note the time period in which these stones just happened to be found. It was the late 1930s, and that was during the Great Depression. Money was hard to come by for most everyone. You can imagine hearing that a $500 reward was being posted for carved stones from the lost colonists, and you are a master stone carver in great need of money. It would almost be too easy, wouldn't it? Furthermore, the other 2 individuals that said they too had found stones and turned them into the university for money, named William Bruce and Isaac Turner, just happened to be very good friends with Bill. Next on the list of red flags, Mr. Eberhart had a history of forging Native American and Mesoamerican artifacts. Last, but certainly not least, in December of 1940, a reporter by the name Boyden Sparks, working for the Saturday Evening Post, began investigating the story. It was Mr. Sparks who uncovered the information that I have just relayed to you. Bill Eberhart was aware that this story was about to break. With the knowledge that he was about to be uncovered as a fraud, he told the professors at the university that he'd confess his fraud to the Post if they didn't fork over $200. Instead of surrendering to this blackmail, they took the story straight to the press. Since then, not a single Dare stone has been found. I do hope that information has helped you, Angie.
That's intriguing. What about in my brother's video of Jamestown that he asked the chief what happened to the colonists, and he had them killed?
Well, I didn't really touch on a conspiracy theory dealing with that very issue. There's a lot more to the story than I let on in that video on Jamestown. Hey, Jeeves, would you mind enlightening everyone about what I'm talking about?
Of course, Matt. Give me one moment to bring up that information. This is an interesting theory, as it ties into the Dare stones. As I discussed a few minutes ago, the Dare stones stated that the Native Americans killed the majority of the colonists. And as we talked about earlier, Captain John Smith wrote that he had asked Chief Powhattan what he knew of these people, and he was told that they had been killed. In this regard, these 2 theories match up. However, according to Smith's writing in 1608, the Jamestown settlers had heard the Roanoke folks were living among the natives. Furthermore, a soldier named George Perry reported to Smith after returning from a scouting mission that, and I quote, he had seen a young Indian boy of about 10 whose hair was a perfect yellow and with reasonable white skin, which is a miracle amongst all savages. It was further rumored throughout Jamestown that the surviving Roanoke colonists were forced into slave labor at the copper mines. Though there seemed to be no real event which led to this rumor, simply mere speculation, we do know that John Smith had a penchant for embellishment. After all, he was trying to sell his books. So, in essence, what we have are two opposing first-hand accounts of the same incident. It would make sense for the chief to order the death of the colonists, and we do know he did give the command to purge the area of these English settlers. On the other hand, it also makes sense that a few of these tribes would disregard this order and assimilate these colonists into their ranks. Having these English folks become part of your tribe meant you, more than likely, would have an immediate ally with these foreigners. And given that their technology far exceeded any that the natives had, that partnership could potentially boost your tribe's power and influence over all others. The next logical question to ask is, do we have concrete evidence to show which version of this story actually unfolded? The answer to that question is, almost. DNA scientists are very close to proving the lost colonists did in fact survive and assimilated into surrounding tribes. They theorize that descendants of these colonists must still exist. Recently they tested one such possible descendant with the surname Brown. That surname is important in this test because two male members of the lost colony were from the Brown family, William and Henry Brown. These scientists are looking for just the right combination of genetic markers, and Mr. Brown is known to be both Native American and European, and his family story is that he is in fact a descendant of the lost colonists. The results of the DNA test show that his male line goes back to the Brown family in Europe. His mother's line is Native American. This, however, is not definitive proof that at least one member of the colony survived. The only way to achieve that is to match Mr. Brown's DNA with the DNA from the skeletal remains of one of the Browns from the colony. And the chance of ever finding those remains are slim to none. These results could simply be attributed to a male member of the Brown family traveling to America decades later and marrying a Native American woman and having children which would be the ancestors of the current Mr. Brown. I will leave it to you all to determine how to interpret the facts I have given you.
Wow, that's just wow. It blows my mind. But on the topic of these theories, do you guys know any other theories?
There is that theory that they all tried to sail back to England on the rowboats that were left to them there. But like I said, it's just a theory.
Yeah. Really, a dinghy in the ocean? Not gonna be good. But what do you think? Just say yes or no.
Okay, Rob has asked you if it's a good idea to try to sail back to England in rowboats. What do you think?
All right, we're all in agreement. Doesn't hold water. No pun intended.
Okay. Well, are there any other theories out there?
Well, yes, there is one more worth noting. The theory is that the colonists moved down to Hatteras, but I'm not sure if that's all quite true. Jeeves, can you help us out with that?
Certainly, I would be happy to assist you with that inquiry, Angie. One moment, please. John White, before leaving the Roanoke colony to procure more supplies from England, gave strict instructions to the colonists that should they need to leave the area, they should carve their new location into a tree at the colony site so that he would know where to find them when he returned. No one today knows what happened during those 3 years that John White was away. However, piecing together the clues that John White found upon his return does give us a much better understanding of what might have happened. There is an island just south of Roanoke that today is known as Hatteras Island. However, Back when the colonists arrived, it was called Croatoan Island. It was inhabited by the Croatoan tribe, which was a member of the Powhatan nation. The Croatoans were on good and friendly terms with the Roanoke colonists when John White sailed back to England. There were, however, several other tribes of the Powhatan nation that would have been happy to wipe these English out. The theory that you are inquiring about simply states that the colonists were running out of supplies. They were surrounded by hostile tribes from the north and the west. The open ocean blocked them in from the east. Their only hope of salvation was to the south, and as it happened, the tribe just to the south of Roanoke was the Croatoans. From our standpoint, it does make good sense, in that situation, to move south and integrate with the friendly native population. You would have food, housing, and protection. What more could you ask for? It is only reasonable to ask, at this point, is there any evidence to support this hypothesis? And the answer is a resounding yes, and more hard evidence is being uncovered almost daily. This new archaeological hunt for the lost colonists was kicked off in the year 2012 as a result of an astounding find, the likes of which you might expect to see in movies like National Treasure. Let me explain. John White, besides being an adventurer, was also an artist and a map maker. It was customary at that time that if there was a mistake on a map you were making, or more intriguing, if you were trying to hide something on a map, you would simply cover it with a patch, thereby making it virtually invisible. John White's hand-drawn map of Virginia in 1585 and 86, which is kept at the British Museum, had been studied multiple times, and no such patch was found. However, in the year 2012, John White's map was scanned in high definition and a patch was uncovered. Under the patch was a hand-drawn symbol of a fort about 50 miles inland and a little south of where the Roanoke colony had been. Why did John White hide this location? Archaeologists immediately got to work in this area. They named Site X after the shape of the hand-drawn fort, and they have uncovered some intriguing finds, nails, bricks, and 27 pieces of English pottery dating back to the late 1500s. Interesting as this is, a rather large problem exists with this site. It would have been very unwise for the colonists to move to this location. The native tribes in this area were incredibly hostile to the English. Another team of archaeologists have postulated a different hypothesis in two parts. 1. The colonists split up, some trying to settle this location at Site X and being killed rather quickly, which would explain the lack of substantial finds. 2. The colonists did stop here in an attempt to gather supplies as quickly and as quietly as they could before continuing southward to Croatoan Island, now known as Hatteras Island. These archaeologists have been excavating areas on the island and have uncovered some remarkable finds, such as a 10-carat gold signet ring engraved with a lion or horse, a small piece of slate that seems to have been used as a writing tablet which bears a small letter M. Still barely visible in one corner, it was found alongside a lead pencil, part of the hilt of an iron rapier. A light sword similar to those used in England in the late 1500s was also found nearby the slate. In addition to these objects, an iron bar and a large copper ingot were found and appear to date to the late 1500s. Native American tribes lacked such metallurgical technology, so it is believed to be European in origin. To date, this evidence supports the theory that the colonists moved to Croatoan Island and assimilated into the native tribe, which coincidentally explains the sightings of blonde-haired, white-skinned natives by the Jamestown colonists. I do hope that information was beneficial for you, Angie.
All these theories sound at least somewhat valid. None of which we know if they're even true. But I do have this one question, if you don't mind me asking. Are there any, ruins of the fort on Roanoke at all?
Well, yes and no, Darby. A small earthen mound exists there in the English style for the time period, but that is pretty much it. The townsfolk have built an outdoor amphitheatre very close to it, where they perform a play on the Roanoke colonists during the summer.
Sure is interesting. more interesting than an abstract painting, I'd say. But I think that we need to go out there for ourselves to really know. What do y'all think?
Hey, I can go to Nassau, pop on a plane. I'll be there in the morning.
Sure. I can catch a flight here from Montana. I can be there in the morning.
So it's settled. I'll catch a flight from like the nearest airport and I'll try to see y'all in the morning.
Well, since not too far, what do you say I look at us a hotel and I'll meet y'all at the airport.
Okay, I know you can't make it with us there. That's okay. I'll keep you in the loop. I will record everything for you, and we'll meet back here shortly.
Okay, looks like it's you and I now for a while. Angie has met Matt, Darby and Rob at Raleigh International Airport. Soon they will be heading to the Wyndham Hotel that Angie reserved for them in Kill Devil Hills. They are checking into their room now. If you are not sure where Kill Devil Hills is located, it is in the middle of the Outer Banks, North Carolina, roughly 25 minutes from where the Roanoke colony was established.
So this is our room. We just checked in August 15th. There's Rob. The beds, which are very comfortable. Nice, beautiful paintings up here. We're all getting changed to go down to the beach.
Just put it down.
Got a television, which we probably won't use.
Are you gonna go change, Rob?
Couch, chair, tables. Come up in here. I'll turn the light on. In this corner, we've got our microwave, our coffee pots and coffee, fridge and freezers down here. Closets in here. Of course, we have safes that we can use if we need to keep valuables in. We've got the bathroom in here, the powder room. Everything looks all remodeled and fresh and new. All right.
I believe they are going to head down to the beach to have a little fun before going to dinner tonight. Tomorrow they plan on heading down to the remains of the Roanoke colony.
Well, hello there. Down at the beach. Mom's been playing in the ocean. Uncle Rob's been having a hard time with his back and not wanting to fight in the water, and Darby's taking a couple really good waves. So we're gonna walk out here and give you, look at that. I'm gonna give you a good view of a wave coming in here. And hopefully I don't drop the phone. Let me back up a little. You all right?
After spending some time at the beach, they headed out for some dinner at a restaurant called the Black Pelican. They arrived at the Black Pelican at 4:30 p.m. Rob enjoyed the shrimp and grits. Matt ordered the po' boy sandwich, Angie enjoyed her ravioli, and Darby had the chicken and fries. They also ordered mussels and oyster Rockefeller. It was Angie and Darby's first time trying them. After dinner it was back to the hotel and much needed sleep. Tomorrow morning they will be heading to Roanoke. Wakey wakey, eggs and bakey, almost everyone was up and ready to hit the road. Except for Rob, he needed a little more beauty sleep, I guess. But soon they were on the road for the 25-minute drive due south to the ruins at Roanoke. They arrived at 9:45 in the morning. Matt stopped to take a few pictures before they entered the park where the ruins are located.
We are at Roanoke, the Lost Colony, and we are looking at this map over here. Because if you take a look, so there's all kinds of things that are here, and we're here just for the fort, the original fort earthworks, which is labeled D. Now we are currently right there, and D is the fort. And I happened to turn around to look, and there it is. So we're going to walk up over here and take a look. But
I'm going to be quiet for a minute and come up here. I'm going to videotape the nature so you can hear and see what it would have looked like for them. So this is the plaque that's right in front of the fort, which I'm going to show you in a moment. This was reconstructed from the archaeological digs. And this is the original colony of Roanoke's fort. And we are going to go into it. This sign, if you can see it, reads, "Fragile earthworks, please do not climb." So we won't climb to the top, but we're going in. There's Uncle Rob reading this sign. Let's see what this one is.
Oops, let me get out of the way.
Oh, you're fine, brother. English Explorers Earthworks. Let's zoom in on one paragraph at a time.
Look, this is...
All right. Here we go. Now they say that the reason for the fort is unknown because it is too small for everybody, but I think I know what it was. If you think about it, it's a defensive position. Because if you take a look, this would have been the entrance. But let's take a look over here. Now they would have had a wooden wall up on top of the earthworks, but here is a point. And there's a point where Uncle Rob's standing. A point over here. And a point over there. And one right here. Each point would represent a lookout for a shooter. Or to spy on what the natives or any hostiles would be up to. I believe this would be a defensive position.
This is awesome.
Whatever happened to the lost colonists, we don't know. There is a lot of evidence to suggest that they went to Cape Hatteras, which is where we're going next. It's about an hour and a half from here, driving. Cape Hatteras had Native Americans that were much more friendly to the colonists. And we know that through the stories passed down. And from the captain who came back, he had to leave this area for supplies, and he sailed back to England. But when he returned to England, England was in a war with Spain, and he had to fight in that war, and it took him 3 years to come back. And when he came back, there's a tree right out here that was marked with one word, Croatoan, and everybody was gone. Now, Croatoan means Hatteras. And so it's believed that they all went to Cape Hatteras. And there's a lot of archaeological evidence to support that. But Captain White never sailed to Hatteras, which amazes me because his daughter and granddaughter were here and one of the colonists. Instead, he sailed back home, believing that they were okay. But nobody knows for sure what happened to him. This is America's oldest mystery.
After leaving Roanoke, the team made their way to Hatteras, but were unable to visit the archaeological dig site as it is on private property. So they spent a little time on the beach in Hatteras, made their way back to the hotel, checked out, made their way to the airport, and each one flew back to where they had been, all except for Angie. She decided to stay a few more days at the beach. So let's go ahead and log back into the video chat and see what everyone thinks.
Sorry you couldn't make it there with us, but you got to see everything that we saw, and we've all flown back to where we were. I'm back here fishing. Can't help myself, I love to fish. But we're all back to where we started from. We wanted to finish up this mystery on this conference call, so thanks for joining back in again.
From my perspective, at least from what I saw, those ruins were way too small for all the Roanoke colonists. It seems much more plausible that it was built by the previous 15 colonists that disappeared prior to the colonists everyone refers to as the Lost Colony arrived. What do you all think?
Yes.
Makes sense.
I concur.
I don't think that there's really any other explanation for the size of the fort. What do you think?
Darby is asking you, do you think these ruins are from the first 15 colonists that went missing rather than the lost colonists?
Alright, seems like we all agree here.
All right, since everyone agrees, let's move on. What do you all think about the other theories that have been postulated over the fate of the lost colonists?
John Smith's story of Powhattan saying he had the colonists killed does go hand in hand with the Dare Stones, if you believe the theory of the Dare Stones. Also, how do you explain Smith's later report that colonists saw members from the Roanoke Party working the copper mines, or that they saw natives with blonde hair and white skin?
Good point, but I think there's too many problems with those theories.
Just on those facts, I think we can toss it.
Well, that leaves just one plausible theory left. They had moved over to Hatteras and assimilated with the native tribes.
Would explain the archaeological evidence being uncovered in Hatteras right now.
Plus the, stories of later colonists seeing natives with blonde hair and some English features.
That's right.
Well, it looks like they were all in agreement here. Turns out that the colonists weren't even lost at all. They simply moved to Hatteras and assimilated with the natives there. I think that this is case closed. I'd like to thank you all for being here, and I couldn't have done it without you.
Well, that's case closed then, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, all right then. Another Hegman mission completed. Thank you for your help today. And thank all of you on the team. Maybe we might be able to talk you into helping us out on another mission coming up here pretty soon. But until next time, we'll see you soon. Bye.
All right. We'll see you later. And thanks for your help.
Case closed. See you next time.
And we're out.
I would also like to personally thank you for helping us out today. It has been fun, but now it's time to close the book on this, another Hegman mystery-solving adventure. Till next time we meet, may your own journeys be amazing and wonderful.